What is up, my dashing dudes and darling dames? I am the Hans TV, and welcome back to the subreddit that makes you want to pound your head against your keyboard and say, no, it's r/StoriesAboutKevin. Our first post for the day comes from Really Forgot, Kevin and the Alarm. My favorite work, Kevin, has left us to join the military. It's been so quiet since he quit, but memories of his Kevinish antics keep a smile or a grimace on my face. He isn't a stupid guy, but he could be really, really dumb. And he didn't like to lose arguments, and I've got stories about those. But this is my favorite. A bit of background. I work in manufacturing. We build medical devices, and we are set up so we rotate stations every half hour, building and adding in the next part until the device is complete. Whoever you stand or sit next to at the start of the day, you are stuck to them for the shift. Kevin could be highly amusing, if not loud, so typically I didn't mind being next to him, most of the time. On that night, we were working in the back end, finishing off the devices. There's a station right before we test the device, prior to packing it, that lubricated the device. Kevin was working the lube station. Now, this station often has alarms go off, because the filters get clogged, but that night, a whole new alarm starts. Our operator, who had worked there for 10 plus years, never heard that alarm before. I'm gonna go grab the maintenance guys. And off he goes. Kevin keeps working on the machine. By the time maintenance get there, it's thoroughly jammed up. I asked him why he didn't stop when the operator went to get maintenance. Kevin tells me, "No one told me to stop." I asked him again, "You heard operators say he'd never heard the alarm before, so why would you keep going?" "Well, he didn't say stop." It took about 10 minutes for the machine to be fixed, a long time for that machine to be down. In a half hour, we can typically feed 100 or more pieces through that station. It probably would have taken less than 3 minutes to fix if Kevin had just stopped using it when it all started. I always said Kevin would make a good soldier. He will follow orders without questions. Yes, another story of when a Kevin broke something simply because he wasn't told to stop. Our next post comes from CatPoker666, Queen Covina of COVID and the Covina's 3. Covina has most of the risk factors for C19, 65 plus, COPD, and overweight. She has religiously worn masks to the stores and for meeting people because of her high risk factor. I have been closely monitoring her behavior as I take care of her. Lately, she's had cabin fever like most people. She's been trying to sneak out to the shops by herself. However, I know from experience that when she's shopping, she forgets half the rules around proper sanitation and social distancing. Enter the Covina's 3. This afternoon, our neighbors came to visit. 3 generations from one family. Only 2 live together. The oldest is also 65 plus with COPD. The daughter's prom was canceled, so she's wearing her prom dress to go and take pics with her friends and family instead, which I understand. Missing prom sucks, but going to multiple houses in one day to visit predominantly older people is both stupid and irresponsible, no matter how sweet and well-intentioned. We are close, but now is the time to be careful, particularly with those we care about. None of the 3 are wearing masks. They rush to hug Kevina. Kevina hugs back and is not wearing a mask, because she was surprised by them. She then proceeds to stand as close to them as humanly possible. I talked to them briefly from the porch where I was sitting, saying I've had a chest infection recently and that we should keep a safe distance. I've taken every possible precaution for prevention of my infection risks and Kevina's. I go at wearing my own mask and can Kevina one. I maintain proper social distancing. She wears it briefly, but then takes it off when my back is turned and goes back to ignoring social distancing due to peer pressure. I repeatedly comment in asides to her how unimpressed I am and that she should wear her mask. She ignores me. I cannot tell you how furious I am right now. If it was any other time, I would have laughed. But Kevina is being utterly irresponsible and stupid. If it wasn't self-defeating, I would strangle her right now. I wish this was one of my funny Kevina stories, but this is just ridiculous stupidity. I promise something funny soon. I don't think I'm ever going to understand these Kevinas or the Kevins of the world. Yeah, I show all of the at-risk factors to get a very, very deadly disease for someone my age, but hey, let's just ignore all those because I have some friends over. Won't do any harm, right? This next post comes from Nakomi Faro, Kevina/Karen. I just read a story about a big mouth Kevin and remembered a story about a Kevina with whom I had the unpleasant pleasure of working with. More than 25 years ago, but still today it amazes me that there is such a silly and malicious person. a potentially dangerous Kevina/Karen combination. I say potentially because the Kevina part prevented, most of the time, her evil plans from going well. This cleared up, let's go to the mess. Back then I worked in a foreign exchange agency. I was the multitasking employee, although I generally attended to foreign clients. Tourist area, the only English-speaking employee equals multitasking. She was in charge of making the currency changes of the hotels. Yes, I am old. What do you want? The hotels exchanged the currencies of their clients for national currency. At the end of the night shift, sent a fax with a list of currencies and amounts. The next morning, the money was prepared, put into separate envelopes, taken to hotels, and the currency collected. To avoid the danger as much as possible, a lot of cash, my boss hired a trustworthy driver, reducing the time of exposure to the danger. Covina started to be late, every damn day. So the rest of the employees had to do her work, and she just came, picked up the bag, and did the delivery. First strike. Then she started to take too much time during the delivery. My boss spoke to the driver and he told me she spent a lot of time in each hotel. Second strike. The last strike was when money started to be lacking. At first, it was small errors in the currencies. Norwegian kroner for Swedish kronor and things like that. Different currencies, different quotes. But soon was real money, and the hotels complained. It's important to add that money was only missing when the envelopes were not prepared by her. My boss said me to mark the sealed envelopes, small hidden marks that only he and I knew about. And here comes the Kevina part. 2 days later, money was missing again, in several envelopes. My boss called the hotels and asked them to send him the envelopes to see them. But before the envelopes arrived, the driver went into the office and told them how Kevina was opening the envelopes, took out the money, putting it in a new envelope and sealing it, keeping part of the money in the process, of course. And she did it inside the car, between delivery and delivery, with the driver observing everything. Of course, the idiot Kevina took 3 seconds to be fired and 2 days later reported for theft. They couldn't report her as an idiot because it is not a crime, unfortunately. My question is, how stupid do you have to be to do it in front of the driver who you know is going to tell on you? I mean, it's literally his job to make sure that the money gets there in one piece. Our final post for the day comes from Red Stiletto. Lost my patience with Kevina and she didn't show up to class the rest of the semester. AKA, Kevina cannot count to 6. Kevina and I were in a lab group together. We were studying animal behavior, specifically hermit crabs. We had 3 people per group for a 1, maybe 2 person job, so I had to invent things to do for each person. The third person in my group would be called Ruby. So I, being the most hands-on, decided I would collect the crabs, while Ruby, being the only other option of intelligence, would start and stop the watch as well as write down the notes, and Kevina would label each test tube, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Before giving them to Ruby. The stopwatch was for our experiment. Long story short, after being in different circumstances, how long does it take for them to come out of their shells while upside down and compare that to size? Field collection went as smooth as it could go, with either me or Ruby telling Kevina what to do for each test tube as if it ever changed. We then took our 6 crabs back to the lab to get weights and run a similar experiment at the school. Ruby wanted to be hands-on, so she weighed the little guys while I entered their description, weight, notes, and test tube number into the computer. Kevina would give Ruby a crab and tell me the number, all going well until we get to the 4th tube. Remember, we didn't go in order, just grabbed random ones, so hint, it wasn't number 4. Ruby tells me the weight. Okay, Kevina, what's number is this one? This one doesn't have a number. Well, I obviously know this is false, because I had to micromanage her writing on every single one. Well, what is written on the side of the tube? This one doesn't have a number. Look at the tube in your hand and read me the number. It has no number. Losing patience as it was Friday night and most other groups had finished and were leaving. Please look at the white side of the test tube, where you wrote in black Sharpie a number so we can go home. There is no number. Just leave it blank. Now, I know I was rude, but I was done. I should have just kept going and figured out which one was missing, but I'd had enough of her. I meant to say things under my breath, but Ruby confirmed I said them louder than planned. Oh my gosh, give me that. And I snatched it out of her hand. It's number 3, are you kidding me? Kevina was silent the rest of the time, except to say the last 2 numbers. We had 2 more weeks of school, and she didn't show up for most of them. I felt so bad after, but sadly my temper got the best of me. Ruby had also snapped at her for something else I wasn't around for, so I'm sure she felt uncomfortable with us. She passed the class though, or at least she didn't retake it, so that made me feel like I wasn't a total jerk. And down in the comments, they had a little squabble. It says, "What in the hell was the reason for not just telling you the number? Could she truly not count? I would have been majorly frustrated and snappy over something this dumb too. Just tell me the feckin' number already." To which OP replied, "I could tell it had gotten wet, so the 3 was a little smeared and faint. But still obviously a 3. It was ridiculous. I tried to reword it a few times, but there's only so much you can do for stupid." That last sentence about sums this thing up very well. So with that being said, I'm going to leave this episode of r/StoriesAboutKevin here. Hope you enjoyed the stories, and if you did, I'm going to link them down in the description as always. And if you liked the video, subscribe, share, drop a like, and a comment down below what you'd like to see me read next. A humongous thank you to everyone who has commented on the channel, letting me know how much you're enjoying what I'm doing, or how I can be better and like my voices and everything like that. It really pushes me to do better with this channel, and I just can't thank y'all enough for doing that. But with that being said, I will see you in the next video.